Okay, I want to start this one with a little experiment. It's pretty simple, but if you do it right, it might mess with your head a little.
Oh, I like this.
Just look around the room you're in right now. Pick an object, a cup, a chair, your phone, anything.
Got it.
Now ask yourself this. Does the word chair just describe that thing? Or did the word chair actually somehow create it?
Ah, the classic philosophical headache. It's the map versus the territory, right?
Exactly.
Did we just carve that thing out of the raw, chaotic soup of the universe by slapping a label on it?
That is precisely the headache we are getting into today. And we aren't just asking the question, we are going to break reality with it. We are doing a deep dive into the terrifying and fascinating power of definition.
It is a really special pairing we have today. Two novels that, on the surface, they seem like they belong in totally different sections of the bookstore.
Right. One's about linguistics, the other's about cartography.
But when you put them together, which is what we're doing, you realize they're mirror images of the exact same problem.
We're talking about the Nomenclator'S Apostasy by Penix Genara and the Compleat Atlas of Nonce by Penix Wanala. And our mission today is to unpack the physics of these fictional worlds, because in these books, naming something isn't just a vocal exercise, it actually costs something.
Right, and mapping something. That leaves leftovers.
And those leftovers, they have to go somewhere.
They don't just vanish, no.
So buckle up. We're exploring how names consume reality, how maps create impossible cities, and the big question both books seem to be screaming at us.
Which is?
Is it better to be a distinct individual, a noun, or just a flowing process of verb?
I love that framing. Noun versus verb. It sounds like a grammar lesson, but it's actually existential.
Let's start with the word nerds. The Nomenclator'S Apostasy. This book is set in a place called the Schola Nominis. And honestly, this is not your average liberal arts college.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
The Schola Nominis is an institution that's dedicated to what they call nomenclatural calculus.
Nomenclatural calculus.
Yeah, and this is the core idea you have to wrap your head around to get this world. Naming is a mathematical debt.
A debt? See, that's where I got stuck at first. Because in our world, words are cheap. I can say cat, dog, sandwich all day long. I haven't spent anything.
In our world, sure. But the central rule here is that reality itself is finite. There's this reservoir of distinction.
Okay.
So when you name something, when you point at a blur of atoms and say, that is a cat, you're actually drawing from this reservoir. You're making that cat more real, more distinct.
But the cost is?
The cost is that you make everything else in the universe slightly less real.
So it's a zero-sum game of existence. It's like bandwidth on a Wi-Fi network. If I download a huge file, like a really specific proper noun, the connection slows down for everyone else.
That is a brilliant analogy. It's exactly like bandwidth. I mean, usually the cost is tiny. Calling your cat Whiskers doesn't destroy a galaxy.
Right.
But at the Schola, they study the edge cases, the heavy downloads, and the campus architecture. It just screams this danger.
Oh, the buildings are wild. It's like Hogwarts designed by a brutalist mathematician. You've got the Catalogica Universalis.
The building for common nouns.
Right, and it has no windows, which seems cool until you realize why. It's to prevent something called uppercasing fever.
Which is such a great phrase for something so horrifying.
It is.
The idea is that if you expose common nouns like stone or bird to the complexity of the outside world, they get jealous. They try to become proper nouns. They try to become the stone.
And if they do that, they just draw too much power from that reservoir?
Precisely. They become a black hole of definition, so they keep them in the dark, to keep them humble.
And then there's the verborum kinesis, the study of verbs.
Probably the most dangerous building on campus?
Yeah, because students can get locked in present continuous tense. They have to wear tethers, right? Because if you focus too hard on the verb running,
you might just keep running forever. You stop being a person who runs, and you just become the act of running. You dissolve into it.
And we can't forget the adjectival spectra. That's where they study qualities like divorce from objects. There's that great story in the first chapter.
With the pillar.
Yeah. A student accidentally makes a stone pillar irascible for 3 weeks.
Just a grumpy pillar.
A pillar that gets super irritable if you lean on it. It's funny, but it shows how volatile this world is. Attributes can just be detached and reattached like stickers.
But the real story, it centers on this one student, Petrichor. And he's a problem.
A nomenclatural anomaly.
That's the term. He's a boy who forgets his own name every few years. It's not amnesia. He remembers his life, his skills. But the label, petrichor or whatever he was called before, it just slides right off him. It doesn't stick,
It's Teflon for identity.
basically. And he shows up at the school carrying this case with 7 impossible items.
These items are really the key to understanding how broken reality is in this book. And there are 2 that really stood out to me. First, the mirror.
The mirror is fascinating. It totally inverts how we see ourselves. It doesn't reflect light, it reflects names. So if you look into it, you see the word that defines you.
So if I looked in, I might see host, or curious, or my actual name.
Or maybe something you're afraid you are. But when the narrator, Aleph, looks into it, he sees a probability cloud, a blur of every name he could have had.
But when petrichor looks in,
Nothing. A total blank. No reflection at all. Because he has no stable name. He's not fully particularized. He hasn't taken on that debt of reality yet.
and then there's the compass,
Which points to the last word the owner will ever speak before they die.
which is ominous.
Very. And for petrichor, it points straight down.
Down. Okay, we have to come back to that because that pays off in a huge way. But the moment that really explains the stakes for me was the incident with the mouse.
Ah, the exam in a predicative ontology.
Yes. The assignment is simple. Take a mouse and use adjectives to make it more mouse. Just sort of enhance its mouseness. Give it a higher resolution.
But petrichor, he doesn't have the breaks that normal people have. He focuses on the mouse, and he just over-defines it. He pours so much definition into it that he pushes it past the physical limit.
He makes it the platonic ideal of a mouse.
And this is the kicker. The platonic ideal cannot exist in the physical world.
Right, because physical things are flawed. They're specific.
And ideals are abstract. So the mouse just vanishes. It pops out of reality because it became too perfect.
It dissolves into pure concept. And this is the central conflict for petrichor. To be real, to be a person, you have to be specific. You have to be flawed, a noun.
But petrichor is dissolving. He's slipping out of being a noun and becoming a verb, a process.
And the scary part, or maybe the beautiful part, is that he might actually prefer it that way.
Hold that thought on preference, because that is the perfect link to our second book.
Okay, let's jump from words to maps. The Compleat Atlas of Nonce.
This one hits you with a concept that feels so uncomfortably plausible. It's called cartographic error.
I love this premise. It starts with rounding errors. It's so mundane.
It is. Think about making a map. You measure a coastline. It's 3.1 miles long. But for the map, to make it clean, you just write 3 miles.
So what happens to that 0.1 of a mile?
In our world, we'd say it's just data loss. It's gone.
But not in this book.
In this book, the premise is space can't be destroyed. That 0.1 mile doesn't vanish. It accumulates.
It just drifts off into what they call cartographic negative space. And eventually, all those 0.1s and 0.05, all the little bits of the world we shaved off to make our maps tidy.
They pile up, and they form a city, the city of Nonce.
Which is such a great name. Nonce, like for the time being. Temporary.
It's an aggregate city.
Yeah.
And the physics of Nonce are terrifying because they're all statistical. They're made of glitches.
The sensory details are what got me. The sounds, they don't blend.
Right. In the real world, if you're in a crowd, the voices merge into a hum, a background noise.
But in Nonce.
In Nonce, sounds stay distinct. You hear a footstep, then a cough, then the wind. They're like isolated audio tracks that never mix.
That would drive me insane. It sounds like living in a Zoom call with bad lag.
It's exactly like lag. The book says shadows in Nonce lag behind the people casting them by a quarter of a second.
Ugh. That creates such a visceral sense of nausea just thinking about it.
But the real danger isn't the shadows. It's the effect it has on visitors. We follow the narrator, a physicist, and his Uncle Edmund.
And Uncle Edmund is technically dead, died in a cartographic accident.
Which is a phrase I need to find a way to use in casual conversation.
We all do.
But he appears in Nonce. Not as a ghost, exactly. He's a recording.
Which brings us to this idea of becoming statistical.
This is the central threat. If you stay in Nonce too long, or you try to map it too accurately, the city consumes your identity. You stop being a person with agency, and you just become a data loop. A ghost of information encoded in the streets.
So if we put the 2 books together, in Apostasy, naming things costs reality.
And in Nonce, ignoring things creates a new, dangerous reality.
One is about the weight of presence, the other is about the weight of absence.
Perfectly put, yeah.
Now, things get really wild in the middle of the story. The narrator and a researcher, Dr. Iris Langley, they decide to do something that sounds incredibly ill-advised.
Oh, yeah.
They decide to bring Nonce here.
They want to import it to an abandoned subway station so they can study it safely. They want to catch the ghost city in a bottle.
And to do that, they use something called volitional cartography.
Such a cool term.
It really is. It's mapping not what is, but what you want to be.
It basically turns map making into a magic ritual. They go down to this liminal space, a subway station, that isn't on the official maps anymore. They have a topological resonator, which looks like a wooden tuning fork.
And they draw a map of Nonce with French limestone chalk. Why French limestone?
The source mentions the local geometry of that specific quarry is slightly hyperbolic, so the material properties have to match the intention.
Okay, that makes a weird kind of sense. So they draw the diagram, they strike the fork, and it works. A portal opens.
A sphere of Nonce, just floating there on the platform. They can see into the city, watch the residents. And this is where the ethical crisis hits them like a truck.
Because they start watching a resident named Patricia.
And Patricia has a routine. A loop. Coffee, newspaper, 17 minutes.
But one day, she looks right at them through the portal and mouths the words, "Help me."
And of course, the protagonists think, we have to save her. She's trapped in this statistical hellscape, a conscious being stuck in a glitch.
So the narrator actually goes in, he crosses through the portal to be the hero, he finds Patricia, and here is the twist that just completely reformatted my brain.
Patricia tells him to stop. She explains she wasn't asking for help. The help me was just part of the recording, an echo of her old self.
And the current Patricia, the pattern that is Patricia, is happy.
She says being a particular person, having to maintain a consistent identity, memories, debts, a name. It's exhausting.
It's a burden.
It is. Think about it. We spend so much energy maintaining the ego, the I. I am this kind of person. I have this history. In Nonce, she can just be a pattern. She says it's peaceful.
That is deeply unsettling, but also, I kind of get it. The idea of just putting down the heavy backpack of myself and just vibrating as a frequency.
It forces you to ask, is the distinct self a prison? We fight so hard to be individuals, to be nouns, but Patricia suggests that the verb state, the flowing pattern, is actually freedom.
So now we have the convergence. In Apostasy, Petrichor is trying to escape the violence of being named. In Nonce, the residents have escaped the burden of being individuals.
And both books end with this massive metaphysical unnaming.
Let's look at Petrichor first. He chooses to descend. Remember the compass pointing down.
Right, he goes to the basement.
He goes into what they call the etymological excavation. It's the substrate of the school where language hasn't separated from things yet. The primordial soup.
He doesn't come back.
No, he goes so deep he dissolves into the background of reality.
He sends a message back, though. I am everywhere at once and nowhere in particular. He becomes the atmosphere. He stops being a noun and becomes the environment itself.
Meanwhile, back in the subway station, the researchers are stuck. They can't keep the portal open, but they can't just leave these statistical people in limbo.
So they consult the ghost of Uncle Edmund.
And Uncle Edmund reveals the 8th item. Remember, Petrichor had 7 items. Uncle Edmund implies there's an 8th concept, a technique, the unnaming.
The logic is kind of the reverse of apostasy. Nonce only exists because cartographers gave the missing distance a name. They called it error. They gave it a boundary.
So if you remove the name,
the place dissolves. Removing the name makes the thing impossible again.
So they pull off this incredible heist. They use the portal to reach across the world and steal 47 maps of Nonce from libraries and private collections.
And at exactly 3:47 a.m., they erase the word nonce from every single map simultaneously.
Describe what happens next, because the imagery is just wild.
The city unravels. It doesn't explode or burn. It loses coherence. The buildings separate back into their components. And the residents, all 17,000 of them, they experience 40 seconds of what the book calls hyperconsciousness.
Awareness squared.
It's like they wake up from a dream into a super reality for just a moment.
And then
they disperse into raw possibility. They return to the probability cloud. It's treated as a liberation, a release from the trap of form.
And there's that epilogue to Nonce that gave me chills. The narrator, 40 years later, gets new atlas, and he looks for the coordinates.
Is the city there?
It is, but it has no name. It has learned to exist as geography without identity. It evolved. It became pure territory with no map to cage it.
So what does this all mean for us? I mean, we aren't living in a world of nomenclatural calculus or aggregate cities, or are we?
I think we are. I think we're constantly doing exactly what these characters do. We carve up our world with definitions. We define ourselves, our relationships, our politics. We draw these lines and say, this is me, that is you.
This is success, that is failure.
Yeah. We round off the edges of reality to make it fit into our mental maps. And just like in the book, those rounded off edges, they have to go somewhere.
Maybe that's what anxiety is. It's our personal knots. All the things we ignored or repressed or failed to label, just accumulating in the background until they form a ghost city in our heads.
And these books are a kind of warning. They're saying that the map is not the territory. And more than that, they suggest that our obsession with being someone, a distinct, named, consistent noun, might be the very thing that's making us miserable.
The fear of dissolution, of falling apart, of changing is primal for us. But these stories frame it as freedom.
It brings us right back to that mirror in Petrogor's case.
The one that reflects names instead of faces.
Imagine looking into a mirror right now, and if it didn't show your face, but it showed your name, your label, your job title, your role, would that label feel solid? Or would it look more like a cloud of possibilities that you've trapped in a small box?
I think for most of us, it's a box we're terrified to step out of. We hold on to the noun because the verb feels so unstable.
But maybe, just occasionally, it's healthy to let the edges blur a little, to be a little less of a noun.
And a little more of a verb. Be a process, not a statue.
That is a lot to think about. Next time you ignore a rounding error or round off a decimal point, just remember, you might be building a city somewhere.
And be careful what you name it.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you in the next one.